Well, for now we got an absolute nice start with everybody silence. Let's break the.
It's the way, man. It's the way.
I mean, I can start a little bit if nobody wants to talk. So we have the Takis and the DAO agenda for today, and I'm gonna send in the chat. You Dean also put some comments about more topics to talk about, but I don't know if we should start with the Don Taki sent.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Now
What I miss?
everything, Archimedes. You occupied all the bounty call space. Now you're gonna occupy all the DAO call space as well. You can start Archimedes already.
Start.
A mean raccoon has been
I'm.
spotted.
I'm joking.
Look, man. Look, man. Yeah. So I think we have a couple of topics that we can cover. As far as Sunday's agenda carrying over from that, and I know that there's already work being done on discussing vision. So I think we need to continue that work there to be able to have enough feedback for us to actually engage in that conversation. But as a friendly reminder, CryptoPause has gone and created a Miro board that people can contribute and add user stories to, and to provide feedback on, what it is that they view Grape as and where they think Grape can go. And trying to get a collective consensus from everyone so we can make an informed decision on what we publish as our vision so everybody's on the same page, which I think for most of us is, I would venture a guess I know what it is, but it might not be what 90% of the community and the DAO think is the vision. So really aligning together and having a collective view that we can all agree is the way forward would be helpful in us discussing a lot of the other topics that'll come up. And then the discussion around next steps on reputation, I think, would be another key topic for us to, discuss the next steps. And lastly, as far as I'm concerned, something that I'm personally working on and trying to get written up, because I've already created documentation for in a Excel spreadsheet or a Google Doc spreadsheet. But my next step is to actually write it up in a formal discourse proposal that I can put forward that people can actually read. And that's taken a little bit longer than I had expected because I have to input the formulas specifically that are tied to each thing that was designed in the spreadsheet, which everybody has access to. It's where we store all the Grape governance metrics. If anybody's curious about what I'm speaking of, talking about incentivizing governance activity since the beginning of our governance in DAO, and creating models in which people can be rewarded for previous activity and new members that come on to contribute value to Grape and receive Grape in return for their efforts. So reputation might be a good starting point if we want to start there, unless somebody else would prefer we start off on another more pressing topic and really deep dive into reputation. Hey, Pochak, I'm not sure if you're trying to say anything, but can't hear you.
I want to hear that the beer was good that we paid for.
I think he might be jumping off to come back on. It's one of the tactics I use whenever my microphone doesn't work.
Is slapping it?
That used to be a trick that used to work. You know, you just slap it over the top and maybe it just starts working like a TV, VCR, the good old days.
I see Mr. Pause is kind of sad in the chat. Nobody has submitted any user stories so far.
Pochak, I don't know if this helps, but one of the things I do when I find that every time I leave and join again, I have to close down the Discord app and reopen it to be able to join for it to work sometimes. It's weird.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay.
Hi there.
I don't know. Hey, how's it going, everyone?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a while. Sorry about that. It's been really, really busy.
I imagine, to say the least. Quite a week we had last week.
Well, out a week, right?
What didn't happen? That's the one thing I keep asking myself. What didn't happen?
Moon didn't happen. Moon and Lambo didn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, for those that may have not been on Sunday's call, we covered a number of topics. We had discussed, bounty process discussions. We had discussed, which Writer in Red has done a fantastic job of helping us realign and identify certain caveats of things that we're learning as we go along, and improving. So that's good. We also discussed and did a real quick recap of the breakpoint in general. Dean and Whale's friend came up and gave us a spin down of here's everything that happened. Here's some of the exciting events and different projects that people interfaced with. And our core focus and hope was that we could drill down today into some of the findings and learnings from the reputation workshop, and also our next steps as a project on what comes next for us to be able to further along our progress on reputation without putting too much pressure on you here, Pochak, for all the work that you're obviously working on, but as a collective discussion for the entire DAO, not just targeted at you.
Totally. So, I mean, I can give you like an update on what's going on just generally on the reputation side, and then we could talk about like what might be a good next step.
Sure. Sounds good.
So, I think like you said, you guys already talked about the reputation workshop from Breakpoint, but it was amazing. It was super interesting to see how many different DAOs came up with different reputation systems, or at least like different things that they want to take into account in reputation. I think that what has sort of like revealed itself over the past few weeks since we like voted on Scientist Joe's model is that to get there is an incredibly difficult process, in the sense that we're talking like I don't know, at the very least several months. And it requires a lot of engineering work on our end to be able to facilitate that model, largely because the logic is something that we would have to maintain off chain. So what we're trying to do right now is we're trying to kind of scale back a little bit on how we're building Lighthouse, because we're building it for like a very generic case, and that's fine. And it has like the interface and everything. But every integration we do has a cost to it, which is not necessarily insignificant. So I think that what would be interesting and how to approach this would be to think about how much each of the actions that are in the Scientist Joe model are worth, and which ones would be the easiest to put in place. Notably, anything that's on chain would be really, really easy to set up. We already have the Realms integration that's functional. The Treasury integration will be out by the end of the week. And if we can make anything go through forms, then that's also really, really beneficial and would speed up things. Anything that's beyond that, that's like automatic data capture or that requires calculating how much reputation is worth through some off-chain mechanism, those are things that are like really like kind of increase the burden for how much like time, effort, money would have to like go into building this out. That's not to say it's not possible, right? It's just to say that it would be good to approach this in a frugal way, especially since we don't know what the outcome is going to be in 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, etc.
Yeah, I hear you, and I think I think as far as one of the things that I was working on, which is part of, I don't know if you could say it's part of reputation, so to speak, but it includes a notion of reputation mandatorily for it to be fair. Is a incentives rewards proposal for governance participation in Grape, which I'm planning on putting forward. It's just a matter of finalizing documentation that's written up to explain everything that you look at a spreadsheet and you could see what's in there and scratching your head saying, how did you calculate this number? And what does this number represent? And also clarifying what the logic is, because unless you look at the data, and we talk about it very broadly as in broad strokes about what we think reputation means. And you could say that you want to use data in a certain way until you actually start looking at what the data shows and what you can do with the data that you have available to you, and in what capacity you can, how complex you can make it, right? You can either make it super complex, super difficult to maintain, and very error prone in terms of breaking, because you'd have to have upkeep of making sure it is consistently displayed in that format, right? So if I pull the data and it requires 3 hours of making sure it's all put together in the right way, in the right format, and the data isn't necessarily all on chain, it's a grouping mechanism I need to create in order to validate data. Like, is this a valid proposal, as an example? Is this a valid vote on a valid proposal, etc., right? When we talk about governance reputation specifically for on-chain data, even though it's easy to get the data, the decisioning of using the data is probably going to be where we should focus our attentions and make sure we're all in agreement on the way we use the data. Because the data is there, sure, but the question then becomes, how is it fair to look at that data and make sure that it's being rewarded? For instance, when talking about the governance reputation discussion and the way in which you reward governance participation, one of the questions that came up is, well, we only have yes and no votes in realms. What about people who are participating that want to participate, but there's no vote option for them to be able to select one of the options? And that comes down to, should there be an abstain option? And is that something that needs to be added in later, where the model we currently talk about is yes or no, right? And then suddenly you introduce a new factor. How hard is it going to be to manage that piece of what happens when things change? Because they will. Invariably, things will change over time. So even things that are on chain today may not look the same in the future, for us to be able to create that really holistic view. So simplifying it is better if possible. And I think that's where you're going with that as well. But it has to be complex enough so that it can't be gamed, right? You don't want to create any mechanism where an activity on chain automatically gives you reputation, even though it's a thoughtless activity or something that just makes it look like you've accomplished something, but you haven't really been productive in that. Creating a proposal and voting on it is not something that just magically happens to yield value for reputation. Just because I did that action doesn't mean it's valid. But I am really interested to know and get a sense for what else you may have learned from the other brainstorming sessions, on all the people that came to Breakpoint and participated in the reputation workshop, on if you had a couple of learnings or findings that could help us, guide ourselves in terms of what others thought might have been valuable ways of approaching reputation, would be really interested if you're not too shy to share.
No, not at all. Okay, so I think that what's the most interesting thing was in putting the workshop together with Civic and with people from Dean that were participating in it. What we did as a workshop together was kind of like the first iteration of this, and we only took into account one model, which is something I had advanced, which is like, let's think of reputation as points. What's difficult about doing that, and we already kind of knew this when we were doing the exercises, is like, how much is something worth really? So even when we were conceiving the workshop for Breakpoint, one of the ideas we had pretty early on was, do we need to express reputation as a point value? Because if you're going to teach this concept to people, you're really forcing them to think about what the value of these things are relative to each other. Like, how much is the proposal worth? How much is the, participating in a DAO call worth, etc. And that's really not an easy exercise to do. Even if we do it collectively and we come up with these sums or averages or, however we decide to score this. So the model that we went for in the workshop, and it worked really well, was given certain criteria, what do you get relative to those criteria? So the 4 exercises in the workshop were: define your stakeholders. So you have investors, you have whales, you have core contributors, you have freelancers, you have all these different types of people that are participating in the organization. For each of these people, there are different things that motivate them or different things that they value. Let's identify those. And then, sorry, I'm like reading the chat at the same time. And then you take what that person values and you define how they contribute relative to that value. So basically, you have an equation with 2 sides. What is the person doing and what are they getting that they value? And that worked really well. A lot of people came up with, like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 different ways of structuring this. Like there was an education DAO, or like an early education community. They were trying to build a Web3 education platform. And they were trying to think about giving students of the platform governance power. So one of the things that I had suggested to them, and I don't know if they ran with this or anything, but they had worked on this concept of having like freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And being a freshman, getting that role, so kind of a membership role, required you to have done this, 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 and this. And in exchange, you got this much voting power, this much, these many tokens, this much, whatever. And it kind of became more of, gating and rewards, or gating and reputation being like a access or authority or. I think that's a really good model to put in place, and it's something that the community has already been thinking about, thinking of membership tiers. And a lot of that stuff can be on-chain or controlled in like a finer way than a point system that accumulates and lets you gives you a certain amount of power based on just points.
Sure. So my understanding is that everybody was thinking about it in the vein of, I guess, a membership model of different classes or tiers, right? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we purposefully, built the workshop that way. So it's very biased in the sense that that's the methodology we were teaching.
Sure. And I would ask, as far as the Grape community is concerned, because we recently revamped our membership model to move away from that process, whether or not that would be, the best way forward in figuring out how to do what it is that reputation, I think, to some extent should be doing, versus what it is that people think is the best way to use it, right? So I guess, and I'm saddened that I wasn't there to be able to, stand up and have everybody look at me and wonder, who the hell am I talking about this? And what do I know about reputation? But as somebody who values it in their personal life and always wants, and I'm sure everybody on this stage feels the same way, it's an incremental add-on value of things that you do over time, as you mentioned. And in my view, trying to distill it down to a numerical value or to some type of tier podium where it's first, second, and third you're an Olympian and you train all day every day for 4 years so that you can run, and you end up fourth, and suddenly you're not on the podium. It's great to be able to show the excellence of reputation in that capacity, but I don't know if it's the right inclusive model in my mind for making sure that everybody's participation. You could create the tiers based off metrics that end up yielding ranges, right? And the metrics tell you what the tiers are, not you saying what the tiers are ahead of time and putting people into the buckets based on hearsay or additional metrics. That looking at the governance example, right, and talking about the reputation there, it's not enough to say, oh, because somebody creates proposals, they deserve a higher reputation, versus somebody who's consistently participating and voting in every proposal that's ever been created, versus somebody who's done both, versus somebody who's done it consecutively over every epoch that has elapsed where proposals have been generated. I know I just went through a really long thought process, but I just want everyone to be clear on the fact that this is not as much as you want to try and simplify it into those terms. I would play devil's advocate here and say there's probably value in identifying the specific inputs that yield getting to the tiers, right? Because that's the real discussion on reputation that I see being the biggest challenge. And you pointed it out beautifully. Structuring it into a tiered model or structuring it into a percentage-based model where somebody gets a score based off certain things is great, but ascribing the weight to make sure that just because I go and create proposals, I suddenly gain an amount of reputation. I do it every epoch because I know I'm going to get reputation from it, versus doing all the things that are necessary for me to be able to ascribe
Guys,
my reputational value.
Archimedes, one moment. I know we can go like hours and hours about governance and reputation, which is something we will talk about in the end, can be talked later on, but I think we have an agenda to follow, and it's a big ass agenda to follow. I know everybody is writing on chat and waiting for the agenda to be discussed, but I think Archimedes is better to follow up the agenda and leave your discussion to the to the end of the call. If
I'm
you
not
want to.
following. I thought reputation was on the agenda.
It's where is it in the agenda?
When I said it earlier, we didn't say that wasn't on the agenda, did we? I apologize if I'm hijacking the conversation to focus on something that I think we need to get moving forward on if we think that that's the highest value for Grape at the moment. But I'll take a step back. I apologize.
Maybe there's a way to kind of to be honest, I haven't looked at the agenda, but I think it might be interesting to take an hour even, and anyone who's interested in getting deeper into this conversation and kind of like, breaking it down a little bit more.
I mean,
Maybe we can
yeah,
set aside an hour, like tomorrow, Thursday.
I'll put like it as in a workshop but like we did before, like in
Okay.
a special hour or two for governance and reputation, like we had before.
Okay. I can set that up for this week if that's fine with everyone.
I know Taki did the agenda for it today. Taki, do you wanna come up and do with me the follow up? The follow up. I mean, the first thing on the agenda is brainstorming extension of Grape Vision, and I assumed this Grape Vision discussion, which was archived and closed in June, is brought back up. If
Yeah, hey
nobody,
guys. I just put the things in the agenda that were here since Sunday's agenda, the first couple of them at least. I'm not really sure whether they were discussed, so I thought the DAO wanted to continue the discussion there. So we can always start with any of these topics, whichever one you like.
I mean, we can start with them by order of the agenda, but if nobody is gonna talk about, then there's nothing to we just keep it. So it does. Someone wants to talk about the brainstorming session on Grape Vision.
I just close captioned that the Grape Vision is a very important topic.
That's it.
I would like not to glance over it, but do you want me to basically do
The recap that I started at the beginning of the call was that CryptoPause is taking the initiative to put together a Miro board, because during Sunday's call we established that we'd like to get user stories from all participants in the Grape DAO to be able to provide some view or perspective on what they believe Grape Vision to be, and then following the collection of that information for us to potentially have that discussion on the next Sunday call. So I think this is a good starting point for us to say that, unless somebody wants to go deeper into it today. I think it would be fruitful for us to have the information from the entire DAO community to be able to center the conversation rather than opinions.
Yeah, and we also talked about a little bit on the bounty call that basically we have a few decisions to make, a few core decisions. And the first decision is if we want to be sustainable in the sense that there's revenue coming in and this revenue is at least offsetting our expenses, or we do not want to be sustainable and be around basically forever, but we would rather choose to have a runway and to use up our treasury and then close down the whole thing.
Yep. And that's part of I think that's part of the ethos discussion on making sure that we align that and everybody's very clear on what the objectives are, because we have a lot of debates going on. And I think it's valuable for us to all align on the fact that if we're all on the same, playing field and we're playing for the same side, are we all focused on helping push forward the initiatives that we all think are important? And what do we
Yes,
need to do to try and address those and improve them?
And what kind of came up naturally during the bounty call was that our devs are a little bit disappointed about our marketing efforts, and they think they could be better because key persons like Armani, who is building the backpack, new standard for X NFTs, wasn't aware that we have this open source marketplace, which is Grape Art. So they perceive there's a lack of marketing and of public relation work going on. And
yeah, no, right. I think Armani, what he said word for word was, I completely forgot it. And that's how this ecosystem works. And if people haven't understood it, then, it's unfortunate, because the Grape has had a great messaging months back. And then I think after, July, I think the messaging stopped from Grape. And it shows that there is no messaging to continue. And that's where it was lacking. And that's where it's lacking, because people do forget, people do change. People think that stuff don't exist anymore because they're not just messaged out there.
Right. And part of the discussion around the bounties that ended up translating into, if we have a newsletter that is something that's transitioned off as a recurring discussion, right? I'm focusing on it from a task perspective so people understand the broader initiative, is having everything we do, such as a newsletter, include and incorporate information that has to do with products and things that we have at our disposal to help communities, and for people to be aware of what the recent developments are, updates, and things that we could push forward out into Twitter, because we have a lot of things already that we can use. We're always focusing on moving forward, but I think it would be valuable for us to look back, pick that information up, and put it forward consolidate it into something that's a very easy message to understand. Here's how you can use Grape art. Here's how you can use Grape tools. Here are Grape services. And for us to have a unified front on how we approach supporting those.
But you're once again you are deep in the details, and it's everything what you're saying makes sense and it's good, but I don't think the DAO is following you that deep into it. I think we are really still at the top level question: do we want to be sustainable and to have revenue coming in, or do we want to basically spend our treasury until it's gone?
That's a good point.
So I would love to talk about these points in detail, but we can't do it meaningfully before we have a solid answer and a consensus on the first question.
Maybe this is dumb, but why is that even a question?
You say like you know the answer, so please enlighten me.
I'm not saying I have an answer. It just seems like if you want the DAO to be if we want this to like live on for however much time, I mean, money needs to come in.
Yes, obviously, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would love to have coffee with you. Great job.
I mean, what's the other option? To just sit and not do anything?
Yeah, we have options to have a runway and say we are doing this for the good of the ecosystem, but only for 2 years, and then hasta la vista.
I think Ryder's point is things like with the tools that we have at our disposal and the modeling and the way that we are going to, well, you could say, go to market with, right? How are we utilizing those, and what models are we putting in place to actually leverage everything we have at our disposal to get there, right? And I think it's important to put that in the vein of, it's not just about how much Grape is being used to be able to achieve people utilizing Grape to garner certain things, which I think everything that has anything to do with Grape should probably leverage Grape, right, as the base discussion. But putting that aside, looking at it from, we have sub-DAOs, we have methods in which we're talking about tasks and initiatives and ideas that we're trying to propel forward. How does that all contribute back is the question, right? And I think that for me is a fruitful question. It's something that I think is pertinent. Not necessarily should we or should we not. I think assuming we should be looking at this as a sustainable model, how do we get there? And how do we make sure it's embedded in every decision we're making?
Yeah, I like the sustainable model. I would feel comfortable with trying to achieve it.
Right.
What I heard from the devs today with their expectations of a higher effort on marketing, I also think that they would like a sustainable model. But
any thoughts?
Kirk? Yeah, Kirk is on stage. Do you have thoughts on that?
I was opening it up to anybody on the stage, to be honest, but if there's anything anyone else thinks contributes to this conversation.
I think the most important question to answer, rather than doing these circles over and over, is get feedback from people of what they vision, what they're going to contribute for the next 12 months. And then we could see, who's actually contributing, what they want to contribute, what they want to do for Grape, and we could take it from there. I mean, it's a good starting point.
Yep. So reminder to everybody listening, CryptoPause's Miro board, for those that missed it in the last DAO call, I'll repost it if it hasn't already been done so. And please feel free to offer and add your comments or thoughts in that vein, because that's definitely one of the things that's part of this discussion, is to get feedback from everybody. It's not just the people you listen to talking on stage coming up with this discussion. It's not just us talking about it, it's us talking about it on behalf of everybody here. And if this feels like it should be more simple, then say it, right? If this is being overcomplicated by the fact that we don't necessarily all agree that if I were to ask everybody here in interview on stage at this moment, whether or not we all think we know the answer to this question, I'm pretty sure we'll get some different answers from different people. So I think we should probably have a general vision that's aligned.
Yeah.
It's inclusive, and we move forward.
And regarding your point of we should just ask the people what they would like and what they
Right.
could contribute. I just reposted a thread back from June 7, and that's basically what I asked the people. I said, "What is your vision of Grape?" And please, everybody, comment. What do you think? And who wrote something? Well, obviously I started the thread, so here I am. Wales wrote something. Parky wrote something. Porsche wrote something. Pontes wrote something. Yeah, Dynite, Alex, that's it. Nobody
Right.
else replied anything to this thread. And so the way I am seeing it, just plain doesn't work to ask with people. We tried it. And we've discussed it multiple times. Like it was mentioned already, we should not turn in circles all the time. So we are talking about it. We are mentioning it time and time again, but it doesn't move forward.
Yep. And I think the answer is, let's get to a place where we feel comfortable knowing we've answered this question and move on. Right.
Yeah, but what I said in the bounty call,
Yep.
my experience in with DAOs is that we basically somebody, not the DAO, but a person or a small group of people, has to break down the decisions, make them understandable, like digestible, in a simple format. Like Paul did a very good job on the validator voting that he prepared on Discourse, and then the DAO can make a decision. But the DAO itself is not capable of doing this process of breaking down the decision. It's only capable of making a simple decision once presented the options.
Right. Agreed. So we'll table this, make sure everybody has time to participate in providing the feedback that CryptoPause has aptly put together and helped us try to consolidate the information. Sunday, I believe we should have some go to
So you are
voting
proposing
poll.
we take this whole thing and pin it on Paul's back while he is not on stage?
No, sir. No.
Invulnerable?
This is on each individual's back to contribute, and if no one does, then we're going to end up having to make this decisions on Sunday, right? This is offering up the opportunity for the entire DAO community to be able to provide the insight that they have as far as users are concerned in view of what they think Grape is and where they think Grape should be. We're opening it up. It's not CryptoPause. CryptoPause is facilitating getting everybody participating. And it's up to each individual here, just as you mentioned, looking at, the June discussion that you posted in Discourse, is bringing that to a close and not having to have this conversation in another 6 months. Or it's something that we should be doing every 6 months and reviewing whether or not our vision was correct 6 months ago, right? Maybe that's part of it. But I think we just need to get to a final step of saying, yes, we all know.
I think such a strategic review on a 2-quarter basis would be very good. But it's like talking about utopia right now.
Right. Sorry. I'm very aspirational in some of the things I say, which people may not be able to see because it doesn't feel tangible. So
good on you.
Yeah, feedback and Sunday.
So, Mr. Legend, I think we finished one agenda point.
I mean, the first topic, non-tangible, is highly, deep related to the second one, which is DAO members can propose what they would like to contribute to and in what capacity for the next 12 months. I mean, we can go ask everyone in this call what they're gonna contribute, but it's better for each one of them to come by themselves, say. I mean, as Ryder, you said like for the Grape vision, you had like to have a sustainable revenue for the DAO and to keep going on and not having a runway, and that will be actually a contribution to make for the DAO. Like you want to contribute for the DAO to not to be sustainable in a way, so we can
Right.
all yeah. So,
Right. So the second discussion in the agenda is actually tied to the first,
yeah.
right? So I think it's important that we get number one out of the way before we start talking about number two, because people talking about what they can contribute might not actually yield back to what it is that we're saying we should be doing.
I mean, you can see this second discussion already commented by some of the DAO members on the discourse post in the Grape Vision. So the same
Yep.
people can make new comments, or different people outside the DAO, or as a Grape members, DAO members can also propose what they would like to contribute.
Yep. Exactly, Jacques. The second point can actually help find out what we can do for the vision, exactly, and where we probably should focus our efforts, because I think that that's the important thing. So I think we can move forward and say Sunday, this is going to be a very big topic that we should all bring back up and really focus our attention on. For those that will contribute to the Miro process or any other feedback that you want to provide in any other format, please feel free to start that conversation and try and get something in by Sunday so we can really have a fruitful discussion about this and get to a place where we all align.
I mean, yeah, we can keep you on the agenda, but it's up to the DAO members to come by themselves and say what they would like to contribute. You're not, it's not worth
Yeah.
it. Push them. I mean,
Well, it's not pushing. It's not pushing. It's just opening up once we have the vision, it's opening up the guardrails to say, guys, who wants to come in and help get us there?
the easier way to express yourselves if you're in this call and don't want to speak it now, it's actually doing CryptoPause Miro board with the user stories, which
Yeah,
that way you can
and I think
actually
that's the
say
best
what
way.
you like to see the contribution where it leads to.
Exactly.
So yeah,
Exactly.
we can keep this topic, but I don't know if anyone wants to say it now, it's fine as well. It's not
Yeah, but it's also putting something in place that makes it possible for that conversation to happen. Because the
Yeah.
point is, DAO members can propose what they would like to
Yeah.
contribute. It's not they have to, right? It's who wants to come forward and help in the DAO core initiatives and the things that need to be done to get us to the vision. So I think we can move on to the next one, which is the tokenomics and proposed improvements, if we're okay with that.
Might I add on something real quick?
Please.
Maybe we could just on the Miro here say write down what you could contribute or what skills you have, and then just these post-it notes, and everybody who would like to can really quickly note down something.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea. I think that's a decent concept to put in place. And then we could take post-its and assign them to each one of the tasks, right? That's a great idea.
Probably send a message to CryptoPost to include in the Miro board, so you know.
Well, anyone can go and create. Yeah, anyone can go and create a
okay. I
post-it. So
forgot you can
you
edit
don't.
it, yeah.
That's why I'm not saying it's CryptoPause that needs to do anything. He already did the work of putting a template out there for us to be able to fill in. I don't want him to be the only one that's driving this conversation when it's a whole community discussion.
I didn't mean as more work, but like as a so people don't mess up the whole template. That's the thing.
Yep. Obrigado.
Yeah, I would like to at least ping the people with a mirror link at the end of this call or something like that, so it's visible.
Yep. And I think we've posted it in the live chat a couple of times. I'm going to put it in the DAO chat as well in case anybody's missing the live chat.
I mean, the way to go is maybe put the link up in the DAO channel, tag every DAO member to feel free to fulfill it, and we will get some answers till Sunday.
Yep. And I think that's the way forward. I would agree.
Are you just doing the ping, Archimedes?
Yep. I'm doing that now.
Here's a link which directly moves to the right element on Miro.
Oh, thank you, sir.
So I assume we can move on to Grape tokenomics and proposing improvements. I know this was talked not this Sunday, but not at the last two Sunday before this one. And I expressed my opinion on the Grape tokenomics with Billy when he was there about my opinion was like burning, but leaving the investors amount and then stay with that in the treasury. I mean, around that, I don't know like specifics because I'm not too deep in this topic, but you know, Billy, see, he probably can say more than me.
Yeah, in I think it was last week's DAO call, we started talking about the grape tokenomics, and if anybody has any suggested improvements, because the decision to actually mint the full supply now or not, it also entails that we are deciding that the community will have 300 million grape in the second period after the 5 years, and we're taking that decision now. So, one, does anybody have any suggestions on the tokenomics? Like, can we do something to improve them? And two, if we do mint the full supply, maybe potentially that chunk of 300 million grape in the future could be used for reputation. Maybe that could be the reputation token that we're going to work on with Lighthouse could be from those tokens. And we have to figure out how that will work. But
The proposed lighthouse system will work with a new token with vGrape.
yeah, but that token could be backed by Grape if we want to.
What would be the benefit of backing it?
That's why we need to review our tokenomics and see if we can make that change to continue using a single token, Grape, but the reputation token is a marker that we have to choose as a community to use
Right.
for Grape, because essentially the supply of Grape would not go to 1 billion. It would be 700 million tokens in this case, but we would still do the whole mint as intended, but we would choose to use the token for reputation because that's more important than the tradable token. So
Right. And the use of tokens, right, that are backed by Grape. The notion of how do you control and manage all the things that come with having a token that needs to track a certain type of activity. If we're talking about GAN, or we're talking about Beans List, or we're talking about reputation, or we're talking about any notion of a token that's used in a capacity, how do you incentivize making sure that somebody holds that token, make sure that it isn't misused or transferred, or there's all these other things you need to probably take into account. So I think it might be that backing it with Grape is important, more important than we might realize, or that there are ways in which that could happen, but without making it possible to game that system, because obviously reputation is something that needs to coexist with the tokenomics that have to do with Grape, because we would like everything that's tied to Grape to be tied to Grape, right? In theory, the Grape token should have utility in everything that we talk about, as far as I'm concerned. And maybe that's part of the vision conversation, and I'm making a mistake there, and that's fine. But I think that's what I'm hearing from what Billy's saying. Am I correct in that, Billy?
yep.
So from
I mean,
what
we
I
could,
understand, it will be the rest of the mint will be into like reputation tokens, which will be backed by Grape. And imagine like we do the bounties with these reputation tokens, and like we give the token to a community member. So he earns reputation, and if he sells, he loses his reputation. So
Yeah, what I was thinking we could do in reputation back token, which is backed by Grape, if it was transferable and sellable, the moment it would be sold, 99% of it or 100% of it would go to the DAO. So you don't necessarily have to have a non-transferable token.
Yeah.
Right. And there are some interesting challenges that come into play when you start talking about transferring token, right? And how you connect the dots of making sure that that's fair, but also not gameable.
kind
Personally,
of
I
like a
think.
tax transaction if you
Let me
plan
finish,
to.
please.
Okay, sorry.
Personally, I don't think this discussion is a little early because we're not sure yet on what we want to achieve. So maybe, yeah, we don't know what we want to achieve. So how are we going to set up a reputation system now?
If I could zoom out real quick, so we don't use the reputation discussion and the reputation token as the core discussion around tokenomics, right?
Yeah.
I think taking a step back and looking at Grape as a token and trying to remember that the token and the activity that the token is meant to incentivize is you want meritocratic contributions. You'd like that to be something that if there's a fixed supply of grape over time, there have to be positive cycles or negative cycles in which the grape flows out and flows back in to the ecosystem, right? So that it's utilized according to being able to redistribute to those that are contributing and potentially not from those that aren't, right? I'm not saying burning and I'm not saying slashing, okay? I'm saying those are the types, regardless of what the vision is, right? There's a part to this discussion which has to do purely with how do tokenomics work, and I don't think there are a lot of projects out there that have the answer. And in all honesty, and this is not a slight on any other projects that are out there, I don't think a lot of them had ever figured out what tokenomics mean. And everybody's approached it from a very different angle. Some have very complex burning mechanisms and slashing mechanisms. I don't want to go down that path at all. I think promoting the notion of positive activity within a ecosystem where it's people that are part of Grape and people that aren't, that want to become part of Grape, and making it possible for them to join.
Yeah.
And for those that want to leave without penalizing those that are still there is part of this.
Now you're moving further towards the personal user level again and away from the high tokenomics picture level. The way I look at tokenomics and what every tokenomics has in common is the tokens flow. Tokens flow from one point to another, and then you can use this flow like a lever and say, okay, here something gets taken out of this flow, like a fee or a burn. And what I'm currently not seeing is that we have these flows, because we only have membership and we have GAN, which is a lump sum payment. There's no like automatic flow. It's like you do it one time when you have membership forever.
And if you sell it, you end up losing additional Grape from what it is that you locked in. So there is a way of keeping the Grape in a model like that sub-DAO, right? And that sub-DAO is operating using Grape in a way that it's making sure the Grape remains in the ecosystem for the use case of having a token that provides services and products.
But the way I understand tokenomics, it is not about keeping the native token in the ecosystem. It is rather about capturing value in the ecosystem.
I agree. I agree with the way that you're framing that. And I think the value of the Grape token in that capacity is it gives you access to the product, right? It gives you access to the service of the product. That's the utility of where Grape comes in. The GAN token is a representation of that value. It's not the value. It's the one that you use to be able to show you put up the grape for that value, in theory. Now, the question is, does that come back to the DAO in any way, in any meaningful way? And should it? Does that make sense? And does that illustrate your point?
Kind of, yeah, but the thing is, all the competitors again are working on a NFT-based system. So at least until recently, they took advantage of royalties. And the thing is, if you say, okay, you put up this amount of grape to get into GAN, you get 1 GAN token, okay, yeah. And if you sell that GAN token, the grape gets back into the grape ecosystem because you have a high fee on the selling. I don't see where there's only the entry is buy pressure for grape. The exit is not buy pressure, isn't it?
It's a great question. And I don't have the answer to that, unfortunately, but I think that that's a great question that we need to answer, right? And it comes back to, okay, so how does that affect the way in which the grape that we have in the DAO treasury and the way that the community that's controlling the emission or utilization of the existing grape that's already here and to be released in the future, how does that get funneled into this discussion, right? If that's an example, and we're using that as an example just to illustrate the fact that that right there versus what we're talking about is probably part of the vision. I'm saying probably because, you know, I think we can talk about tokenomics without talking about vision and say that there's a way in which the tokenomics will inform us on what the vision might need to be. You know, unless the token isn't the right point to center on. But I digress. I'm just taking a step back and saying, as a vision, how do we use grape? How does grape matter? And then make the decisions on how you use grape and release it in that capacity. If reputation is part of the equation, great. You know, if bounties are part of the equation, okay. We discussed this in terms of pools. I brought this up in a previous proposal where I think we need to have an allocation strategy that aligns with all the initiatives we come out of the discussion with the
I took
vision.
another look at your dynamic pools idea and I really liked it. I think we could also work with something along similar lines to structure my idea of small DAO core groups.
Yep. Or at least to put the grape in places where it belongs for the incentives to be driven so that everything has the ability to do that. And if it needs to be reviewed at a later date, that's fine. But putting the pools in place so we segment it and give the opportunity for each, if there needs to be a sub-DAO or there needs to be a process within the DAO, which I think is more fruitful, the DAO should be driving those initiatives knowing that they have a certain amount of grape. But again, coming back to the broader vision, how does the grape flow?
Yeah, I saw your mic lighting up a few times. Would you like to say something?
I'm just listening to Archimedes. I don't have something to add, but I would like to hear other ideas regarding the flow and the tokenomics and things we could do to improve.
That's the only reason I'm talking. I'm hoping others will join in the conversation unless no one has anything to add, in which case, you know.
In which case we could proceed to the bounty process improvements, which Ryder has made a lot of great suggestions. Do you want to go over the bounty process revamp?
Do you mean the general bounty process revamp that is not yet done, or do you mean the payment process?
The general bounty process revamp.
Okay. Let me link you really quick. So I used this Discord discussion feature, and I wrote down some thoughts about how we could move forward with bounties. Because currently we have this idea that a bounty should be a simple, well-described task that a contributor can just move in and complete with this task. But what's we have the reality kind of disagreed with our idea, and there actually are tasks that are not so easy in the sense that anybody can come in. It requires a specific skill. And on the other hand, there are tasks that require more work quantity, like hours worked, than is a good fit for one person. So you will need to, the link I post, you will need to open in full screen on Discord, otherwise the table won't render properly. And I basically came out with this simple matrix to visualize and to get a hold on the different kinds of bounties or of tasks that we want to distribute and we want to get done in the DAO. In general, the way I think about this, I'm really big on effectiveness. If we don't get it done when it didn't work, we need to change something. The efficiency will come later. First, I'm big on effectiveness. Yeah. So that's basically the idea for now, is that we do the simple tasks and the tasks that are achievable by one person. We keep them kind of as bounties. So it's a very open thing where anybody can come in. But the more complex tasks and also recurring tasks, we move them to smaller groups of people. And these groups of people will be organized under DAO core. That's my idea on this. And then we will pay every person in this smaller group of the same amount upon completion. So if they were effective, if they did their task, then they get paid, and everybody gets paid the same amount. So for example, if you have a group of 3 people, everybody gets paid 1/3. And if one of those 3 didn't do anything or didn't do enough, then there's a clear social pressure inside the group to rectify the situation. Yeah, and that's also the reasoning why I want to, or why I would like to keep these DAO core groups rather small, so that this process of internal responsibility always comes through. So far, we want to test out this whole model with the newsletter bounty, because the newsletter bounty is easily dividable up to 2 different tasks. The first task is rather easy, which is to gather information from all the different points of Grape and then provide this information for the people who write the newsletter. That would be a very open thing where anybody can come in and say, hey, the NFT council bought this NFT and we are so bullish on it because yada yada yada. Or for example, we at the Grape Syndicate, we won a tournament, something like that. And the second group would be a smaller group, like the DAO core group. These would be the people then come in and really do the editing and the writing for the newsletter. And their life is easier, their task is more achievable, because they don't have to scour the Grape Discord and the GAN Discord and so on, even the Dean's List Discord, because they can then build upon the work that was done by the first group, by the open group, who gathered the information. Yeah, that's the basic way forward. Currently, the main thing that's stopping us from directly putting this into action is we don't have a sure way to automatically measure contribution of information I would have loved to use the alpha bot for that, but sadly we are running kind of dry on developers for the alpha bot. Mr. Baba said he doesn't have time to complete it, and on D-Work there's so far nobody coming in. We already increased the rewards for that. Yeah, and the way the alpha bot would have worked, because I'm aware that most of you are not as deep into this as I am. The way the alpha bot would have worked, that there would have been a new emoji to be placed under the info posts in the Discord channel, and the bot could automatically track this emoji and then provide us with information who received that emoji, by who, and how often. So then, for example, we could set up a Discord role for the DAO core group and the DAO core group newsletter, who is doing the editing and the writing. And when they do the newsletter, they go into the info channel, read through the information, and every time they see something that's useful for them, that they want to integrate into the newsletter, they would use this emoji. And that way the bot could be used to tally up who really provided useful information as a way to incentivize really useful information and to not have spammers exploit this process. Yeah, so that's everything on a new bounty process. Kind of went on a tangent here, and not really a tangent, but I talked for quite some time. Any questions, any comments? I'm happy for anything.
Adam, do you remember what the researcher sub-DAO used before?
No.
Because what they used before it was a starboard by the Dinobot. So I think it functions the same way. So allows members to save the best posts, so like the best message, into a channel by reacting. So how does this work? So in the settings you can set the emoji, so for people to react. So researchers use the star emoji, and if the post reaches 5 stars, it will be redirected to a channel, specific channel, as you said. So I think this is our alpha bot. Can work as alpha bot if you want.
I like it, yeah.
The thing is, people need to react with that specific emoji to know for the bot to regard as a, let's say, good information or like a good post.
Yeah, the way I imagined it is that we incentivize or basically pay for posts by quantity, but there's a rather low limit on only quantity posts. And then if you receive this emoji by somebody from the newsletter core team, then you get a boost on your total.
I've put on the live chat the module Dinobots use and the settings that it uses as well.
Yeah, that's very good.
If everything checks out, we can use this. If we don't, we just keep pushing the alphabet to someone to complete the bounty.
Good job, Legend. Good find.
Yeah. I assume the bounty process improvements is done and discussed about. We can move on to the Grape Dap into Sagaphone. As the agenda says, it is an opportunity not to be missed by any chance, and we should exhaust all possibilities of being included in the launching depths on Saga. So it is a Discord thread made by Dean, and Dean also shared a Google Docs. The thing is, I think you need permission to get in. And yeah, I need to request to see the content inside. And Dean is here, so I don't know if he could say more about this. I don't know if anybody else knows also more
I,
about this.
I could ask a question. So why is it such a big deal that Grape is featured in the Saga phone?
Is that question to me?
No, I'm asking why is it such a big deal? Are we going to onboard more users to Grape, or what's the big
My
what's the big
opinion on this will be not a dashboard, but actually Grape art will be on the Saga phone.
Okay.
If we can onboard more people and use like Grape art through the Saga phone, I think will be beneficial to Grape and beneficial to the Solana ecosystem, since we aim to be decentralized as much as possible.
No, I just want to be realistic with expectations. Like, there's 3,000 pre-orders on this phone. Very, very limited user base. What app do we want to have on the Saga phone?
Yeah, my personal opinion will be Grape art. I don't know everybody else, but I would like to see Grape art there.
Hey guys, I asked myself the similar question. For me, it also comes down to what do we want to present and what do we like to achieve with that. So, like, maybe test Grape art on the Saga phone so that everything works, because it's basically a website, right? So if it works and we have something, or not specifically anything to show, then we should make sure that what we have, like the marketplace, looks good on the Saga phone. But if we don't have a product to sell or to showcase or something like that, I don't see the reason why we should invest time into it, as long as we don't have anything specific.
No, I want to hear why it's such a big deal to be on the Saga phone.
Yeah, I would like to ask that question too when I heard it. Whoever proposed it, they could give us
Also worked in reference
benefits.
devices in the
I think it's
past.
reputation, right? So it's
Yeah, but we just said earlier that all these
Let me-
things we're building are useless.
let me-
If there's
Let
no
me be
revenue,
crystal
what's the
clear,
point?
Billy. Give me a minute. We've worked. I mean, I've a personal experience with a lot of platforms, with a lot of devices that have been launched in the past. I know a lot of the methodology involved. What is our incentive to list our app or to put an app on the Saga phone besides just putting an app there? And whoever has proposed it, I'd like to know what's behind this.
Hey guys, it came from Solana, the invitation, and more than anything, one, I wanted to share the information, and two, I wanted to share the excitement that we were chosen. As far as implementing something, I completely defer to Billy and Kirk on this. If it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense.
No,
I still haven't.
It's not a personal decision for me or for Kirk to decide, I think.
Yeah, I
Can I-
also haven't heard what it benefits and how it benefits us besides us doing the work to have something listed on the Saga phone with a small user base.
If I could just ask a question here, is there any connection between Grape tools that would add value, such as, Grape verification, that you could connect the dots, and the Saga phone being a portal for people to be able to access other initiatives and things that might connect the dots on the tooling we already have, or is that completely out of scope?
I don't know. I'm listening. We don't currently have a mobile first strategy, and maybe that we should.
Yep. Got it.
May I also ask a question? I don't quite understand what this is about. Is this about that we get early access to the Saga Phone App Store to build something for it, or what is this specifically?
There's a pilot program where they're going to be featuring 30 projects.
Yeah, and I understood it that like we come up with an idea to link the name Grape with a Saga phone or with a prestige project from Solana. So in that way, I totally understand why it would make sense or could make sense to find something that would work, but we need to decide whether we want to do that. So it's not to onboard members, obviously. At least that's not what I'm thinking when I think about providing anything for the Saga phone. It's prestige.
Yeah,
Right,
it's
and
prestige for who though? Like, what are we going to benefit as a DAO?
I mean, that's like similar to asking why we should push for putting out that we providing a marketplace. It's like it's important to the same way that people remember or linking Grape basically to a solid
My
Solana
question
project.
is, since we haven't communicated that we have a marketplace for like 3 months, now we have to make an app for the Saga phone.
No. That's basic. That's what I said when I came onto the stage, right? As long as we don't have any product that fits, we
No,
shouldn't like.
it seems that we don't believe that we have products that fit. We haven't been marketing them, and now
Yeah.
that we have this opportunity, we remember that we have to market them. I mean, I'm very disappointed that we need Solana to remind us that we have products.
No. For me, at least for me, we need to find out what we want to do with Grape. And once we answer that, we can focus on that. And then we can like go to everyone and advertise for it. If we don't do that,
other than Grape Art, we don't have a front-facing app that could be packaged into a mobile app today. Like, just to answer the question, and it needs significant amount of work to be done to get that working properly with a new mobile wallet adapter. And I don't
someone
know.
needs to maintain it. I know. I
I
totally
don't
get
know
that.
if the benefits are that big compared to the amount of work required to do this. So if we're
Totally
not
agree.
aligned in Grape Art is important and we need to continue developing it, I don't think it's a good idea to waste resources on things we don't believe are valuable for our community.
For me, it's not the question whether we think Grape Art is important or not. I think everyone here on stage or in the audience sees the value in Grape Art.
Well, from what I have heard, it's not everybody.
Yeah, but for me, it's more like what we want to communicate. What is our idea behind presenting Grape?
You know what's funny? Let me tell you this. When Noah reaches out to me and when Armani tells me that, you know what, you guys have this, and I completely forgot it, it goes to show that our messaging is not right. There's something terribly broken and there's something not right. And it's not my role or Billy's role as developers to do the marketing also for the products that we've been pushing out.
No, of course not. Of course not. For us as a DAO, like it's like we need to figure out together what Grape stands for, what Grape should be.
Right.
And once this is cleared up, we can discuss and think about what to put out and how we want to put like the word out. But once we need to do that first. And I totally agree with you, Billy, when you're saying that the costs of creating something that we even don't know where the benefits are and that is expensive to maintain, and there are not enough users or not that many users who will ever get to see it. I totally agree. So it's not. I'm not here to push for creating something. I'm still trying to answer the question that I want to like answer for the last couple of months, what we want to do with Grape. So, and I think we made that clear like during the last hour that we want to focus on that. So I agree on.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that, Pause, and I think that that's part of the initiative here, right? And the fact that I don't want to play down the fact that okay, Solana's looking at us, and they've offered us a place in something that they've pushed as an initiative, right? What that entails for us as a community is not non-trivial, right? It's something that involves a lot of effort and work to get there. And the question is, are we building for where the users are today, or are we building for where the users are going to be, right? If I were saying this strategically, just zooming out for a moment and saying, do we think inexorably we're going to tie a lot of the effort in making sure that the Saga phone implementations are successful, right? And what does that mean for DAOs? And what does that mean for Grape? And what does that mean for anybody that should be using Grape today, right? Maybe we focus on the things we have today, getting them to where they need to be, and in parallel, looking at these opportunities as, oh, this would be a nice direction for us to go in if we're doing the right things to begin with. I don't want to. I don't want to block something that's a big opportunity, right? If there's an argument here or debate that this is a huge opportunity for us marketing wise to tout something, but behind it, here's the level of effort required for us to do that, versus we have tooling and things here already that with additional tweaks and focus can get us to a place where you make a mobile friendly web page and you're good, right?
Yes.
And
I don't want to shoot it down. I don't want to shoot down the idea. Sorry. I just want to be clear. I don't want to shoot it down. I'm framing it in the same way I think you are, CryptoPause, and just clarifying. I think we're all on the same page on that front, and the vision discussion is definitely going to always be something we're going to come back to.
Yeah, and I understood the post in like a way that it is showing that we potentially have this opportunity to do it, and even having this opportunity is something not every DAO has, right? So
what is
it's not
that what is the opportunity? Could someone define the opportunity here? Because I haven't
to be featured on the Saga phone, like on the prestige project from the Solana Foundation.
That's it.
That's
so it's just
how I'm
just
looking at
featured,
it.
Right?
Yes.
Well, I don't know more details about it. I mean, I'd like to know more, but that doesn't sound like an opportunity from
Is it going to affect onboarding more people to Grape? Is it going to actually help us in some way?
It's like Samsung pre-installing Facebook app on your phone. Like it's not as if people don't have Facebook and people don't know Facebook, but it's like prestige.
No, I understand the prestige. I understand all those things, but it's a lot of work for something that our community is not.
There we agree. And there we agree. And if you ask me, CryptoPause, do you support the idea of investing time and money into creating an app for the Saga phone? I would say no, we shouldn't.
Yeah, I agree. Android, like iOS in general, are much bigger, wider out. The other issue is that we're looking at Solana native communities. We have been doing that for a long time, and we need to stop doing that. We need to look into real life use cases outside of Solana. If we really want to onboard people to decentralization and like, I don't want to use the word Web3 because it's abused, but bringing more transparency to nonprofit organizations, multi-sigs, all of those things. If we have an aligned vision on that, it makes sense. But just having an app on a Saga phone for prestige is not a good selling point. Like I want to hear the real
Really,
benefits.
that is the worst selling point. And we've done this before. I mean, I personally could roll out an app of this if I wanted to, but that's not the point. We're not gaining anything without a vision here and without any incentives, to be honest.
I think it's important to put those things into perspective. From a marketing perspective, I think the real benefit to most of these discussions typically revolves around marketing more than anything. I don't know if it's part of the network effects, so to speak, until we know what the network effects are. And the vision, I think, answers that a little bit better. I don't know what the timeline is here on when we would need to make a decision definitively as a DAO to be able to come back to Solana and say, yeah, we'd like to participate, or no, thank you for the opportunity, but we're working on XYZ, right? And just to clarify,
let me tell you something. It's not that this is gonna just go away. Solana is always gonna want people to use and make apps. It's never gonna change, and it's not gonna change if they want people to use their phones. This is their selling point when they're gonna have it, that we have so many apps. But the person that's bringing this forward and wants to do this, what benefit and what does it do for Grape? I want to hear from the people that actually worked on this and believe that this could benefit, how it's going to actually benefit Grape. And I haven't heard that yet.
As I said, I like when I saw the post, it's not like as if it was an essay about why we should do it. It was like a link and an information. And as such, I looked at it. And I think it's important for people to mention or give input and ideas and show potential. And for the DAO then to decide if we should like take action or not. So but I guess in this case we are at least most of us, or I don't know what the audience says. I didn't read chat, but I think we agree on not spending time, especially since we have more pressing issues and other things to decide first.
I agree. Like once we sort out the vision, what we're building, what everybody wants to focus on, and that's what motivates everybody to work on as a team. It's not coming up with some random, okay, wait, this is a good market opportunity. Yeah, but we've had a marketplace and we haven't promoted it. So we're shooting ourselves in our foot.
We're going to just get some short-term promotion. But in the end of the day, yeah, it's exactly how Billy says it. There's no clear vision, and we're not answering those questions. And, Charles, you're right. I mean, Grape Art does represent everything we stand for as a DAO, but we have to also see how this is going to be beneficial for us as a community. And we have to see that as a broader perspective. So we need to answer these questions. Because it's really important. We all want to participate, and we don't have to hide behind our fingers here. We all want to do something that's going to be better and better than all of us, individually. And I think that if we use that creativity and we spend our time efficiently, we could get a lot of things done. But that's really up to us. And for this specific thing, if I don't hear how that's going to benefit us besides just slapping it on a phone and saying we're done with it, I don't see that as being beneficial, but that's my personal take. Again, Grape Art is open source. Someone wants to try to wrap it and put it on the Saga phone, be my guest.
Yeah, I also agree that we should first be clear on our vision before we can decide if this is valuable use of our time and resources. And we are moving forward with our vision, Kirk, and we have a Miro set up where everybody can put down what they would like to contribute or what they can contribute to the DAO. And we made the decision that there should be a proposal by a member to the DAO, which the DAO then can decide on regarding do we want to be sustainable with revenue, or do we want to have a one-way? And then also service versus service DAO versus incubator DAO.
Does anybody else have any opinions about this that we can either raise now, or do we move forward? Just to progress forward, because I think we have a very clear understanding of where certain viewpoints are on this, but I haven't heard enough from anybody else about this, and I'd like to make sure that we've given this the right amount of time, and also the different viewpoints that need to be addressed and presented. Because I agree with the versioning of what we're talking about in terms of vision, but I don't want to be the only voice here, and I don't think anybody here wants to be the only voice that says what we think we should be doing as a DAO. Anybody else?
And just to end the talk, like on the mobile app conversation, like personally, I'm using an iPhone. I'm not going to switch to the Saga as my main device no matter what. I'm going to delegate my voting for governance to whatever wallet. That's fine. I don't need to do everything on my mobile device. I'm not that power user. For those power users, yes, you need to have native apps on your phone. That does make sense. But for Grape, our current user base is not that large. We don't have that many marketplaces onboarded to say, okay, it makes sense on day one that, oh my God, everybody's going to be using our app. So it's a lot of work with very little upside for Grape.
Yeah, and I think if we address some of the other discussions we're talking about as far as product reminders and getting more onboarding and more projects involved, then I think it'll be valuable for saying that our existing user base needs access through the Saga phone, because the majority of users on Saga want Grape, right? And they need it there. Maybe that's, I don't know if that's the right approach, but it's a version of that approach, potentially, just so we're clear on, it's not that we don't want to move forward with an initiative that has to do with it, it's that we probably have other things that are more impactful to the DAO today to address before we get there. But again, anybody else has any viewpoints or anything that they'd like to discuss, please? Or we can move on.
I think we can move on to the next topic, which will be Metaplex call to collabs, which is, I don't know from who is this topic. There's no Discord post on this one.
The Metaplex call to collabs, huge opportunity here. Anybody have any context?
I just posted the contest, so
yeah. No, I see
okay.
the tweet. I see the tweet because it's linked in the agenda, fortunately. But I'm not sure if we just basically covered a lot of this in our conversation about Saga. I'm not sure if we're just going to end up saying the same things we just said a moment ago about what we're doing with the products we have at our disposal, or if there's something here that anyone else sees value in. I'm not going to speak to it because I didn't bring it up.
Yeah, I don't know much about this one, so if everyone wants to give some information or talk about it, feel free to do so. If not, we can just move on to the next topic.
Yeah, I mean, we have something in the agenda that no one's talking about. Is there anybody that wants to offer an opinion or a suggestion on how we should be looking at this or viewing it?
I assume it's the same as the same topic with the saga. It's time and effort by the assume the devs, cause it's so yeah.
Right.
I think it's
And
the same problem.
I also imagine we're working with Metaplex in the capacity that involves how it benefits Grape specifically. I don't know if this is talking about how we help benefit Metaplex. I'm unclear what this is.
I don't know what it is either, but if anybody knows, enlighten us too.
Okay, so let's move on, and maybe we table the discussion for Sunday in case somebody had something to add to it. But otherwise,
Do we have a discourse post to this?
No, it's only
no,
Twitter post.
no. There's been no discussion on it that I can see. I think
I mean,
it just came up
I
as
see
part of the conversation.
I see nobody knows, so let's move on.
Yeah, that'd be fruitful.
The next will be Solana University with Grape Initiative, and I think Taki knows about this since he's the one attended the Solana University, I think, party or workshop in Breakpoint. So
Taki just had to jump off.
Yeah, that's the thing. So I think it's gonna be left for the Sunday call.
Mm-hmm.
The next topic will be update on the DAO 50 saga purchase.
I have no idea.
Me neither. I assume will be Realms instruction, no? To mint.
Yeah, I think it was attempted. It was something that was attempted on chain through Realms, and I don't think it went through because there was an error or failure on the execution side. I'm not sure if it actually worked when we tried to do it.
Was this week or the last one?
A couple of weeks ago, I think it was back in October, because I don't think we have any proposals this month that have actually been issued, council or otherwise.
Okay.
The only proposal that finished, I see, is the bounty funding proposal that ended, I think, November 4th. So, and I have to drop off in 8 minutes. I apologize to everybody if that's a problem, but
Yeah, no worries. I'm
Yeah.
trying to look through the Discord about any updates, at least on Grape Discord. I don't see any updates. We might have some updates on the Realms, but
yeah, let's
not gonna
potentially
ask now.
take
Yeah.
let's take that offline. I believe there was an update that had to do with posting. I'm a little confused with where we are in the whole saga discussion in general.
I mean,
So I think we might need clarity.
it's not pressing. It's we have time. Not really important, let's say. I mean, it is, but it's not like
Well,
we
we
are
put
running.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not. You are not
If
running in the
we put
deadline.
funds in it, yeah, we put funds in it, I believe, and I think it's just a matter of getting the funds appropriated to what it was that they were supposed to do.
Okay, so next topic will be, do grape rolls require holding grape? And this is a topic I assume from the discussion there was in the midweek weekend about the developer sub-DAO.
Sure.
Yeah, I could give context on that. So a developer wanted help on learning how to use our tools, basically, and they wanted to develop something on their own. When you have things which are open source, people are going to reach out for help. So having these conversations in DMs is just it's a mess.
Yeah, it's better to onboard on one grape.
So I didn't tell the guy, hey, you have to buy a grape, but I just politely asked that we add the developer role so they could talk in our developer channel. That's it. They don't have any voting power. They don't have anything. And then we're like, okay, they can't have this role. They need to lose the role because they don't have grape. I don't know. I found it rude for me to go and tell this guy, hey, I'm helping you, but now you have to go buy grape.
I understand your vision point, but the thing is, it's the development sub-DAO is documenting the Grape GitHub as.
Yes, we set this up that this Grape member role gives you access to everything but the DAO channel, and it's one grape. So you could just, as a dev sub DAO, you could take 100 grape or whatever, and every person who you think is valuable comes in and send them one grape.
We could do that. You're right, but I don't even want to ask for somebody's wallet. That's like their personal,
Okay, but now you have a different problem. Now you have the whole Discord security thing problem, because if you say anybody can come into your development channel and start spewing shit, then you will be very unhappy within a few days. I think Legend can back this up.
Look, you're right, but it's very hard to get developers that are actually interested in contributing to open source. So when we identify them, maybe what you're proposing is a better solution to give them the grape. But I just thought it was not a good idea to remove a role because he's not holding grape.
I agree that from a case-by-case standpoint, it was a weird situation and it didn't feel right, but from a very German the rules are the rules standpoint, it was not wrong. So I can see both sides here. And either way,
this was made ridiculously bigger than what it should have been. The user has one grape, which I sent. I think it's ridiculous that making it an issue in the DAO and just not pointing it out, just so that we're okay, is not good in general, and it looks really bad to people that want to contribute. It was as simple as sending one grape to the user. Excuse me?
I don't understand. If they had one grape, why was the role removed?
No, the role wasn't removed.
That wasn't removed. Legend reached out and says, the user doesn't have one grape to be part of it. And I sent the user one grape during that day, and then I think it was it was escalated by a user. But this is not something that looks good in general to any developer that's coming, because it's adding additional barriers for no reason for them.
Yeah.
If you really think that someone should be there, I agree that they could have one grape, but we need to attract people. And to be quite frank, there's been a very poor job in attracting developers from other things. And we've done a lot of efforts to get developers, and we have gotten developers, but the ecosystem is not going to be so easy with it. And we want to find ways to do it rather than the opposite and making it a bigger issue than what it should be.
Sorry to interrupt here. I have to drop off in a couple of minutes. So I just wanted to recap something here, because my viewpoint on it is, if we are going to have a model that enables this type of activity where we can bring people in that don't have grape, and it's part of the prospecting of bringing users into the community, I think we should probably define it so we don't have these misunderstandings. That's all I have to say. And sorry, I have to drop off.
The requirement is one grape. So it's, if you want to bring someone, we could definitely do that. In the time that this was discussed, I mean, it was made a bigger issue than what it should have been. So that's the part that is just a continuous circle of just attacks of various things that have happened the past 3 weeks. So, if people sit and see the discussions and see where this is from, you understand that these are just directed towards me for no reason. And, Dina's in the audience. He could address this because he's done multiple attacks to me through other people.
it's not fair that this is now going to become a topic. Well, I have to jump off, and I like being part of these discussions
No, that's
personally
fine. I mean,
because I
you know
enjoy,
what?
I enjoy
I've
this.
contributed personally a lot of time in this, and we've developed a lot. And when I had this discussion also with Armani last week, it was very interesting of how we would attract developers and how what these actions do not attract developers. Very
Okay,
interesting. And
so
people that
I have.
are
I'm
going to
sorry.
be in the
I,
ecosystem,
But guys,
yeah.
guys,
I
could
have to
we
drop off,
please?
so I'm sorry. I just wanted to reiterate what I wanted to say here, which is if we have a model that we think will help achieve what it is that you guys need for the developer accumulation and getting people interested in doing development, let's put that forward rather than, let's not, I don't think it's important to focus on the mishaps or things where there's a misperception. I think it's important that we align with, do we think that this is the right model for us to be using? And let's move forward. That's where
Yeah,
I would like to focus it on,
yeah,
because I
we
think
should focus
everybody here,
our energy. Yeah,
that was the
exactly,
most important thing that people didn't focus on. They wanted to bring up other
understood,
things which are completely irrelevant.
understood. And that's all I'm saying. I definitely have to drop off now, but thank you guys so much for everything that you're doing. I think whatever perception issues we are having, we know we all here are contributing to the same cause. And that's what
yes.
our goal is. So I have to drop off, and I'm sorry I have
Just
to do
end
that.
it because I want to end on a positive note. The reason why I was against removing the role was because in previous Spaces call on Twitter, when we launched Grape Art, a community member from Grape was kicked out during an AMA on Grape. I don't know who did it, but it was recorded at a Twitter Spaces where everybody could hear that we kick out people at will. So the fact that we
That
pick
was
and
horrible, Louis.
pick
Horrible.
and choose who is part of this community is what bothered me the most, and I was against removing the role because the guy just wanted access to learn. I'm not going to kick out a member, of the in the general ecosystem. You have to be nice. You can't be an asshole. That's the issue.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think what Ryder just said like makes total sense. I mean, we have one of our main or core products is GAN, basically a service that like uses tokens to give you rights on or permissions on a Discord. So if we can't stand behind that, why do we like have an authentication service? It's like if the issue is that someone doesn't have one grape, come on, that's like everyone in the
That's
community would
not the
send them
issue
one
for
grape.
sure.
You would
That's not
do it,
the issue.
Kirk would do it, everyone would do it, right? So it's like we need to figure out how to do specific things. I totally get that, and it's like at a club where there is a bouncer, and if there is a VIP or someone who's important, then for the sake of like having a good relationship, give him a role and send them the grape later. It's like we don't need to enforce any rules. We're making the rules ourselves, and there is no need for like strict adherence. At
Guys,
the same
I
time,
agree with you. I agree absolutely, and everybody agrees with you. I think. But making it a bigger issue than what it should be is beyond me. It was one grape. I mean, I'm not going to ask the person to get the grape after I told him to invite him, but I wanted to make sure with him that he's going to contribute and give back and learn and be a developer that's going to be active in our sub DAO. Rather than that, it was just an attack on the requirements. We just sent
Well,
him a grape.
to be
It's
clear,
over.
the public wallet the user has was not the wallet which was connected with Grape. So this user was holding Grape the whole time, right? Kirk sent them the Grape, but we had to remove the role because
And I sent him
it
again more
didn't
grape. I sent
connect
him.
that additional wallet. Like it's ridiculous. Like we were talking about removing a role from somebody that actually had the Grape too.
So this, in a nutshell, this wasn't an issue to begin with, but I sent the grape a second time around to another wallet. So, anyways, what you guys accomplished and what certain people accomplished would just make an issue over nothing. It doesn't really reinforce anything.
But what I learned from this, or what I see in this specific situation, is also an opportunity, because if this member has this problem, there are probably others who also have this problem, not necessarily on the Grape server, but on other servers. So we could like also think about how to solve this issue. It's not like who is attacking who or whatnot. We should focus on what we could do to improve the general situation.
Yes.
That's how I'm seeing it. So, yeah.
One thing one way I see where we could come around this issue with, because the way I understand the issue is somebody comes into the server and he's a developer looking to get to know the tools and to start building. And you want him to be able to interact with you without him holding Grape. Is that the problem we are trying to address or fix?
The facts are is that the user had one Grape already. It was not the same wallet that was connected through verification. And I sent him an additional Grape after this became, quote, an issue. And that was it. That was it. There was nothing more to it. But someone for our community wanted to escalate it and say that we're turning a blind eye with the specific user. We want him to learn and participate as a developer.
The other issue which came to my attention was that we are sometimes going above and beyond to remove roles from people that are not holding Grape or whatever because the role was removed. And we need to have like a limit to how intrusive we are. Like, you lose the role today, wait a week, wait 2 weeks, remove the role after like 2 weeks. You don't have to immediately remove the role. Like, okay, they lost the role on Monday. Okay, we have to they're going to lose the role on Thursday.
Do we have a tracking? Do we have timestamps for when they did lose it, so we can say when the week is over?
We do. And usually it's like immediately once they lose the role, we panic. Oh, this guy has lost the role. What are we going to do? There's some times especially with a governance program, that the RPC could fail and we could incorrectly remove roles. But you will get the role back if you verified your wallet with Grape.
Yeah, I agree. We should be lenient, and the way I see it and I heard from your side is that what you're angry about is that it seems to be like special treatment, being very rigorous in some cases and in other cases not so much. And you would like to make this more into a universal process that everybody is handled in the same way and that it's fair.
Look, honestly, it's a non-issue, but we shouldn't cherry pick anybody in the DAO.
If you guys are not fine with it, then it is an issue, and I'm happy to talk about it.
No, the issue was fine. The user was there. He did actually have one Grape before. It was an issue. Then we realized that it wasn't on the right wallet, and someone made it a bigger issue than what it should be. And you know what? It was our decision for him to have a developer role. And I personally sent him one more Grape after I was informed, but it wasn't an issue to begin with. We want to attract people, not detract them from coming here. So these actions detract people from Grape.
Yes, and one thing I'm going to say it finally. What I think what could happen is we make a new channel under SubDAO development, and this channel only needs the developer role, maybe verified wallet or not. That's kind of to figure out on your side together with Legend if that's necessary. And so you can invite somebody to the server and give them the developer role at your discretion. and then they can interact with you in this channel. That's my idea on how to ease friction for new developers coming in, because Billy also mentioned that maybe they don't want to provide a wallet.
No, we'll leave it as is. Let's leave it as is for now. But escalating and making this a bigger issue than what it is something that it shouldn't have happened in the beginning. So, but it became also a DAO topic. So, the facts are is that the user had a grape before, and he got one more grape after, and he had what was required in order to be part of the sub DAO. So we wanted him to be on board and see the channel, and it was as simple as that. And if he didn't qualify, we'd remove the role if needed. But it was our decision to make as a sub DAO.
Yeah,
For transparency about rules addition removals, we can make a channel with the Discord logs for everybody to see, or at least the DAO members to see. So what happens inside the server? So that can be an option. Okay, good option. Everybody was happy.
yeah, would you like that, Kirk? More transparency on role assignment removal.
Right now, we don't have to change anything yet, but I think that people should not should try to bring people rather than push them away. The discussion and the help, even the developer reached out with a DM and asked me what the issue was, and I explained to him, and I told him that I would send the grape. So it became a bigger issue for no reason. It would have been just simple enough that I was reached out, which Legend informed me, and we gave him a grape rather than make this the requirements of being part of the developer sub DAO and us breaking some rules for a user wanting to learn and contribute in our sub DAO.
As far as I am aware, the requirement to join a sub DAO is one grape. So
one grape, that's correct.
Yeah. So
I mean,
everything should be fine.
Every sub DAO is documented in the Grape docs, which is quite not up to date. But at least for the sub DAOs units, every sub DAO has an application steps, and every application step says Grape chat. Jump over to Grape chat on Discord and explain what you're interested in, blah blah blah, and tag the user belonging to that sub DAO. The thing to join the Grape chat, you need one Grape token, and that's what I based on everything was talked about in the DAO. That's why I sent a print to Taki, who brought this issue, and yeah, then I informed Kirk the user needed one grape, and that was it.
Yeah, I sent him to the right wallet.
That's it.
He connected a different wallet. It's the end of the issue.
And yeah, we probably need to update the grape docs. Probably this month. I will touch this at some point this month. Yeah, that's it. Everything about this topic is something we need to discuss, so it doesn't happen again, or at least doesn't happen, with this hype, let's say.
This is escalated for no reason, Legend. So I think we should call this over for the time being, unless someone wants to rebring it forward. But I think the issue should be over.
Yeah, and I saw both point of views, every point of opinion, and I think it's and conversation is finished. I mean, the agenda for today, the initial agenda for today is kind of finished. There are the additional comments by Dean Machine on other proposals. I don't know if everybody wants to talk about almost.
We are over 2 hours.
Over 2 hours, and most of the DAO members, the community members, already dropped off, and we can move the rest of the agenda to the Sunday call, which will be including brainstorming, if not a brainstorming, the proposal on what the DAO members can contribute, the Grape tokenomics. We can keep the Metaplex call to collabs. I don't know if this is something. I don't have information on this, so we can keep it or not. We keep the Solana University Grape Initiative by Taki, which is not here at the time. I would like to keep the DAO Saga update as well. It is kind of recurring weekly agenda topic, so we have more information each week. If we have the information. And we have the favored community management sub-DAO proposal to talk about this Sunday. And plus 2 proposals we didn't talk about, which is Grape Realms Hub and the Grape Workshop format brainstorming. And that's it. Also quite a packed Sunday call with a lot of topics to talk.
Yeah, let's start with a vision and then see how far we get.
Yeah, I like how today we accomplished a lot of the agenda. I like this.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Legend.
Yeah,
I love your energy, Legend.
Thank you.
Can I have some of that? I could need it.
I mean,
Yes.
how do you send the energy though? I can send you through an emoji.
Emoji, okay. I take that.
Yeah, thank you too, Dean. Kind of sad that you had to step off so soon.
You know what CryptoPause you need to do? When things go bad, you just say, it is what it is. And move on. But yeah.
Is it like the Chinese saying, "Mei ban fa"?
Yes.
Awesome.
So yeah, I want to thank everybody for showing up. People who had to drop off early. And yeah, see you Sunday.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.